Hey guys, Andrew Cooperrider here, coming at you, doing my weekly cast I've been doing to kind of go over some things with you guys. Uh, at the rally on Saturday, we'll go over that here in a second. But at the rally on Saturday, a gentleman came up and asked me to start uploading these to the podcast so you can listen to it on the go. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start re-uploading them to the podcast. That is Fresh Brewed Politics, Fresh Brewed Politics. You can go on Spotify and everywhere else where they have them. I'll upload prior episodes too today so people can get all caught up and we can stay into it. So kicking off there, guys, if you could, go ahead, please hit the share button down there. If you're on Facebook, share it to a couple of groups pages, share it several places if you can for me. If you're on YouTube or something like that, feel free to share out the link and let people know what we have going on. I am very excited. The stickers came in for my campaign coffee. This is for the Cooperrider for Kentucky campaign. For those who are listening on the podcast, you can't see it, but the sticker has an eagle smoking a pipe, which I thought was pretty cool. So there you go. The Cooperrider for Kentucky for the Commonwealth Freedom Blend right there for you guys. So go ahead, share that out. You can purchase that coffee at Cooperrider. That's Cooperrider, the number 4ky.com/shop. You can get that coffee there, and it's wonderful. It's a great blend. I made it myself. So you're not purchasing it. I'm sorry. You can get some and with a suggested donation. Okay, so anyways, back to it here. We're going to talk about BR106, why it's necessary, and the arguments for and against it. And then we're also going to talk about why that means it probably won't pass or correction. We hope it passes, but we need people like you to help us get it passed, right? We need to be applying that pressure to them because there's a lot of pressure coming from the other way. And I'm going to kind of break that down and describe how it works. But first, let's talk about what BR106 does. And let's just talk about the philosophical arguments and then go into the issues with it possibly passing. So I am in support of a bill like BR106. What BR106 does is it stops employer mandates. Now, a lot of people, not a lot, but some people would argue, and I'm not saying they don't have a point, that we've been fighting government overreach. I am myself somebody who said this, when it came to businesses and saying they cannot. A lot of people would push to say, well, they can't mask in businesses after the mask mandates are lifted. And to which I said, at that point, it's a business's free decision if they want you to wear a mask or not inside, and that's their free decision. We just didn't want mandates coming down from the government. But the problem is when it comes to these mandates regarding employment and everything else, is that it is not coming from a place of free market decision making. Let me explain. So in a perfect free market, in this utopia world where the government hasn't been playing with our markets for a very long time, and what I mean by that, especially our employment markets, is that you can rewind all the way back to Jim Crow laws. Okay, businesses, there's free market work, there's free market forces at work most of the time, and so when you're dealing with these free market situations, businesses will do things that are encouraged by the free markets. And so if you rewind to Jim Crow, why did Jim Crow laws come about? Well, they came about because businesses were desegregating on their own because it made more free market sense. The market naturally pulled away from racism. And because, it doesn't matter, everybody's money green and people didn't really care. And then a couple of racist Democrats got together and decided to go ahead and put in place Jim Crow laws to force the government to make businesses claim who they can serve, who they can't serve. And the problem is that happened, those laws go in place, and then we realize they're terrible laws they should get rid of, and they should have. So we get rid of them. But the problem now becomes is that we've done damage by having these laws in the first place that encourage discrimination. How do we get businesses to stop doing it? Because businesses are naturally concerned with making any kind of social trend changes. It's cost benefit analysis. They say, okay, what is going to make me more money versus what isn't? That's what a free market means. And so if you're so in that sense, they're saying, well, I mean, all these people were up in arms about desegregating. Do I really want to desegregate? For that reason, because the government had already played with these markets, we had to put in place rules and laws to stop the damage already done by these laws that were put in place to tell businesses they had to discriminate. And so if we fast forward to now, we have a situation with our employers. Our situation is we have mandates coming down from the federal government that we're fighting in courts, but we also have mandates coming from governmental forces within our own state. So take for an example, Governor Beshear using taxpayer dollars to do things like, for an example, pay for the National Guard to come up and cover if you fire people at a hospital. So in a free market situation, if not enough of your nurses and doctors had gotten the thing, and then you decide I'm going to fire anybody who haven't gotten the thing, well, then you don't have enough nurses and doctors, you'd fail. So the free market would dictate that you wouldn't go ahead and do that. You wouldn't want to mandate that to your employees because your business would be gone. But here you come, you have government coming in using our taxpayer dollars to say, listen, here's the deal. Go ahead and do that. And what we'll go ahead and do is we're going to give you the National Guard. We're going to help get you some money so you can replace these people. And don't worry, if your business starts to fail, we'll bail you out, right? Because they do. And then, also when it comes to hospitals, at least in the state of Kentucky, because of CON laws, that certificate of need laws, that state hospitals need to get permission from the government before they buy a significant amount of equipment, add beds, or build another location. It gives the ability for the threat to not even need to be stated, but implied from Beshear and Dr. Stack that they would hang up any kind of con request. They would go ahead and make it very difficult on you to be a hospital. This isn't even speculation. There's a hospital out in Georgetown that was advertising that they were not mandating in hiring ads, and Dr. Stack called them up and demand they pull it down, threatening them with further actions. And so they ended up pulling those down. So that's happening here in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky has SB 8 passed, which says a government cannot create mandates. But the problem is what happens when you have governmental forces using our taxpayer dollars and the overregulation laws they already have in place to get businesses to do something they wouldn't normally do. Because once again, not only is there no free market standard to it, but also if we are having free and accurate flow of information, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Studies have already proven there's no such thing as zero infections. There's no such thing as that happening, that this it does wane, and people who have the thing can still get the disease. Sorry guys, I'm trying to stay away from the key trigger words for the Facebook censors. And so what ends up happening is there's not really a moral issue there, because people can still sketch it, they can still spread it. It doesn't even do that. In fact, most the studies I've seen coming out, peer reviewed, have stated that there is no connection between rates and spread. So there's one county, I guess, in the U.S. has 99.9% rate of people having had this treatment thing, and yet they're a red zone for spread. And so for that reason, it doesn't seem there's a connection between spread and having it. Now, what that seems like is that if the thing helps, it helps you individually with your reaction to it, but that's it. It does nothing for the greater community. So morally, that removes it too. So if accurate information was allowed to flow easily within the communities, mixed with government not providing monetary incentives to putting it in place. I know priorly I'd spoken a few months back about some of the tax incentives and things like that they were doing for these businesses to get them in place, and some of the other things. And so if that information's freely flowing, then it wouldn't be a big issue. BR106 wouldn't be necessary, because I don't think businesses would be mandating it in the first place. There's nobody protesting to demand businesses put in place mandates. There's nobody doing any kind of outspoken attacks on businesses not putting in mandates. Literally, it doesn't even poll well at this point to have a mandate in place. So you're only going to lose customers. A, B, you're only going to lose employees. And then on top of that, you're just going to end up in a worse situation than when you started. So for that reason, these mandates don't make a lot of sense. So that means there has to be other factors causing it, and those factors are coming from the government. Like I said earlier, tax incentives, as well as these factors could be coming from improper flow of information, misguided beliefs, such as like, oh, okay, if we just get this all, we won't have to quarantine. That'll stop stoppages and things like that. Because let's keep in mind that the threat is also already there, that government will shut you down again like they did before, but also they've been preaching and there's some requirements about this whole quarantining thing. And so if they're going to edge off of that, if you go ahead and get it, or if you get your employees done, then that makes the company more money too as well. So once again, those are just governmental factors changing this. So for that reason, that's why something like BR106 is necessary. And what that does is it stops employers from mandating this thing onto their employees. It also stops any kind of passport situation there or anything like that. Because quite simply, hey, if people want to get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't. There's never been another time where, in order to go eat somewhere, you got to show your medical records. In order for me to hire somebody, they've had to show me their medical records. There's never been a time where I've had to show my medical records to get hired somewhere. And so for that reason, it's clear that this has become politicized and being pushed out there based upon some faulty beliefs. I mean, I still see people wearing cloth and medical masks after the CDC current director and prior CDC director and most doctors, including Gupta from CNN, have admitted that those masks really don't do anything. Maybe a KN95 mask may provide some protection, but those don't do anything. But that hasn't stopped hospitals even from still handing them out. That hasn't stopped places from requiring them. Hasn't stopped people from wearing them, even though all the experts have already said they just aren't really good for this particular situation. But I digress. So several beliefs there, right? And so it's key to understand too about these tax incentives, and there's some monetary incentives for businesses to do this. Why? Because we're going to go on to the next part. So BR106 seems straightforward, right? We're pushing back against Democrat-led mandates at the federal level. We're pushing back against state-led backdoor mandates that Bashir's kind of working in there using taxpayer funds, right? We're pushing back against, governmental overreach by BR106. So why wouldn't we pass it? Right. And like I said, the argument is that it itself is overreach. But the problem is there's no other way to fight back. We can't trust Bashir. We can't trust Joe Biden. We can't trust these people. We got to put it in place that, no, you can't do that. No, you can't be doing that. So that way we can stop Bashir dead in his tracks. So here's the dirty little secret. A lot of these giant companies, they don't mind the mandates. One, they think it works or it's going to save lives. And, like I said, science is a little iffy on that one. But also, too, as well, they believe that they want those incentives and they want that money coming in. I mean, we're talking massive amounts of money, right? And they believe they won't have to quarantine anymore. I mean, look, a friend of mine works at the schools, okay? And she does have her thing, and her husband had gotten come down with the sickness, and she called them saying, hey, my husband's come down with the sickness. I haven't been tested yet. Should I still come in? And they said, yeah, you've had the thing, right? And they're like, yeah, I've had the thing. Like, okay, well, you've had the thing, so go ahead and just come in. So they're not even telling them to quarantine or anything else if you've already been around it, if you've had that, because it's allowed by the government and OSHA and all them. They're allowing that. So there's a push there. Why that's important to understand is to now understand why Kentucky Republicans are going to do the bidding of these private companies, as they so often do. And as I get into this, guys, please hit that share button and share this out there onto your pages and stuff, because I'm going to break down kind of how the political system works a little bit here in Kentucky and a little bit of history. So first, you have to understand that Mitch McConnell has an extreme amount of control over our state legislator. And the reason why is because a lot of back in the mid-teens, When we began working on trying to take over the House and the Senate for the Republicans in Kentucky, the orchestrator of that was McConnell. What he would do is they'd go out and they would find people to run in races. Sometimes they're Democrats, they'd re-register them as Republicans. They'd go out and recruit people to run in races. And then McConnell would use his connections with corporate entities to funnel money to these people who were running. Well, to get that money funneled to him, what's that mean? Well, that means McConnell has always been funded well by corporate interests, and he does what corporate interests ask him to do because they're the ones who give him the money. He directs their money out, and then that's how you get it to candidates. And so that's part of the control. The other part of the control is that the House and Senate leadership at the state level, their way of having control. Because so let's rewind real quick to the Ford vote. Remember, only 4 people knew Ford was the company that was getting $410 million of Kentucky taxpayer money when it came time for a vote, despite the fact that only 4 people out of 138 knew who the company was. That leadership entity was still able to get 126 other Republicans to vote yes to giving $410 million to an unknown company. How do they do that kind of thing? Well, guys, I got to tell you about something called the Senate Republican Caucus Campaign Committee, or the House Republican Caucus Campaign Committee. And what are these entities? Well, what they are is they're the only entity in the state that can give unlimited amounts of money to candidates. So the Republican Caucus Committee, Senate Republican Caucus Committee, can give as much money as they want to candidates. So meanwhile, while we're out here, if you wanted to donate to me, and please do so, Andrew, 4KY, the number 4KY.com, click the donate button. You can also go to the shop, get yourself nice coffee, plug there, shameless plug. Anyways, so while I have to work that way, when you get into a general, a lot of times, especially if it's a battleground type area, what these caucus campaign committees do is they send significant amounts of money to candidates. So I'll give you an example here. In 2020, they sent $68,689 to Christian McDaniel for his race. They sent $15,000 to Damon Thayer. They spent $5,000 to William Furco. They sent $25,000 to Albert Robinson. They sent another $25,000 to William Furco. They sent $20,000 to Albert Robinson again. So that's $45,000 to Albert Robinson. Michael Nemes, Jason Nemes's father, they sent him about $12,000 there towards the end of 2019. Keep in mind, he didn't have a primary quite coming up there, but they're sending a massive amounts of money there. And so when you talk about, that's just 2020, you go into 2019, Charles Wheeler, he's getting $60,000, right? And so you're seeing all this money from these campaign caucus committees being given to these candidates, and leadership controls that flow. So if you don't do what they say, they're not going to send you their $20,000 or their $30,000 or their $60,000 that they send in some situations. Now you can say, well, Andrew, they send that. Where does that money come from? In fact, when I was talking to my wife about this and all the money they're sending to candidates, she asked, well, where does the money come from? Well, according to KREF, this is all according to KREF. You can go to it's Kentucky Registry of Election Finance. Just Google KREF KY, and you can find all these reports. I'll give you guys an idea here. They're getting so this is December. This is December of 2020. So this, I believe, would be about this time last year. This is kind of the monies they got here. They got let's see, they've got how much money from PACs? They got in $116,500 from PACs just in that quarter. We've got $1,250 from Microsoft, $1,000 from Kentucky Credit Union. We got $2,500 from what's that? Altria Group. We got $1,000 from Yum Brand. Remember, they put in a mandate here in the state. We got $2,500 from Genentech. We've got $2,500 from CRH Americans. CVS gave them $3,500. CVS, the ones, you know, giving those their shots out. $2,500 from Kentucky Associated Healthcare Facilities. We got $1,250 from wine and spirit wholesalers. $2,500 from Kentucky Petroleum Markets. $5,000 from the Ford Motor Company Civic Action Fund. That really paid off for them. That $5,000 led to $410 million. $5,000 Kentucky Highway Industries. Remember how much we had to worry about the gas tax there last year? I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Associated General Contractors, Kentucky Automobile Dealers Election, $3,500. Anthem Pack, that's the insurance, $5,000. Guys, it's just one quarter. Enterprise gave them $5,000. Louisville Apartment Industry, $1,000. Norfolk gave them $2,000. Kentucky Dental, $2,000. And GM gave them $2,000. That's why they didn't get $410 million. Ford got $410 million because they gave them $5,000. And you can just rattle through this. UPS gave them $5,000. The Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, which directs a lot of these flows and has a lot more control of your state legislature than is necessary, gave $2,500. United Services Automobile Association, that's USAA, gave them $5,000. United Health Group, $5,000. Kentucky Physicians, $2,500. So, and you can go through and look at these. Merck, $3,500 from Merck. Yeah, the same one that came out with the pill, right? Anyways, you can go through these and you can find Pfizer gave them $5,000 at one point. Johnson & Johnson's giving them $5,000 just about every year. And so that is who's funding this PAC that then they use to create control over those who vote. And so the leadership, they care there about, hey, I've got control of this ball. I can kind of control where it flows. And then in turn, how they control that is by handing out tens of thousands of dollars to candidates and then turning around. But the way they get that money is by doing the bidding of these large corporations. So you have to do the bidding of the large corporations so you can get the money, so you can control the chamber, so you have more power. That's the goal. The goal is more power, and they don't care that they step over people. They don't care that you're losing your jobs. They don't care about those things as long as they have more power. So they're going to do the bidding of these corporations and do the bidding of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce because that's how they get the money, and that gives them control over other people. But that's where you guys have to get involved, okay? BR106. We have to make it clear, if you do not vote for BR106, if your primary opponent will win in your election. We need BR106 done. You guys have failed to rein in the governor. We've got people losing jobs over some of the stuff he's putting in place. And it was absolutely necessary. And that's where you guys got to get active. You got to share with people about it. You got to stay on top of this. So that's what I have for you guys today. Please go out there, push out BR106, find out what's going on in the world. And thank you guys so much.